Mike McCool. I'm in the Royal Examiner studio. With me this morning is a set of colonels. Colonel John Lundberg, U.S. Army, retired. Colonel William Hammack, call him Bill Hammack, retired. Over 30 years, each of you in the military. Congratulations. And I didn't quite serve that long, only about 12 years, but I told them I was going to wear my Air Force hat just to balance out the table here, but I didn't. They don't think much of the Air Force, you know. Well, what we're going to talk about today is campaigning. You've probably seen these gentlemen along the road saluting and standing in front of the Walt Mabe sign, and they got their salute down. They got a lot of years of practice. So how did you guys get involved in even doing that? Whose idea was that?
Could I answer first on your question
Colonel,
about
sure.
the Air Force?
Oh.
It would take a lot more than a hat to bring you on par with us. But we got involved back in 1984 when I went to Hawaii. There was a old-timer out there named Frank Fossey, and he was running for mayor after about a 15-year absence. And every morning on the corner, he had his volunteers with a big yellow finger, Fossey for mayor, and he won by a landslide. So that kicked in because primarily we were taking on the Republican machine. They have, they're well organized, they're very professional campaigners, and it's at the beginning there was my friend John and me, and we had to do unorthodox things, but the door-to-door campaign with no volunteers is pretty difficult. So we thought we would demonstrate our respect for the citizens of the county, and particularly Shenandoah Farms, which is really helped my morale to see the response that we're getting there.
Now, let me piggyback a little bit on what Bill has said. I think by far the most enjoyable part of this campaign, Mike, has been the response we get. We've been out at least 20, 30 times at key intersections in our district. And it's cold, it's a little windy. We try not to get out there before first light so at least people can see us. And we salute. I give a brief wave and a thumbs up, and you would be amazed at the reaction you get. It's just been very, very encouraging. And as Bill mentioned, we're saluting the citizens of America. They're the people that run this country. And we've got the big Walt Mabe signs out there, the 4x4, so it's very clear who we're supporting, and we just want to show a little respect for the citizens of this county.
Well, I think it's good that, you know, people need. We were talking to other candidates and things over the last, you know, months and things that we've been, as the election gets close, which will be next week, be here before you know it. And but you know, to be involved in a campaign, regardless of which one it is, it's an eye-opening experience. And I think that, and it's kind of, you know, it's kind of like your civic duty to support candidates and to, you know. Your voting process and the election process, and just to see how all that works, and volunteering for a campaign. It's one thing to, you know, check the ballot when you check the box on the ballot, sure. But it's another thing when you're out there asking people to support your candidate and to you know, get people involved in the process. You meet a lot of, I was going to say you meet a lot of strange people, but you meet a lot of nice people too. Tell us about some of your experience with that. I know you've met a lot of people on this campaign, and people that really probably moved you. No, tell me, John. Tell me. Go ahead, John or Bill.
Go ahead, take the lead.
Well,
you trying to think about how am I going to narrow it down to just one?
I'm going to narrow it to one, but I've met a gentleman up on the mountain who's become I'm totally impressed with his intelligence, his perceptions, and I in this short period, I count him and his lovely wife as good friends. I've been enlightened by him and entertained by some of his imagination every day.
Somebody you would have never probably met or in.
I would have not have met this gentleman.
Because you're a local boy. I mean, other than you're 30 years away from the military, but you were born here, went to high school here.
I moved to Front Royal from Middletown in 1950. I went to Massanutten Academy and then a football scholarship at the College of William and Mary, now known as the Griffins. And following that, I went into the Marine Corps, and I was essentially gone for 40 years. So I'm really a newbie when I come back.
Sure.
I've been back 20 years and have integrated into the town and the county. But the discovery of the county, the discovery of Shenandoah Farms and the Shenandoah Shores has been very enlightening and very rewarding and actually makes me very proud to be a citizen of Warren County.
I think we have a lot of good things ahead of us. We've had some issues. You know, people are mad. I mean, they're angry right now. And I see, you know, on your shirt there it says "Made for Change." Is that part of that anger, that people just want change?
Well, I think so. I think probably the biggest single thing I've learned about this campaign is how angry people are. Particularly people like myself. My wife and I moved here 8 years ago, and there's probably 6 or 8 grandfathers, you know, in our church parish that came here for about the same time frame and about for the same reasons. They have kids, many of them who went to Christian College here in Front Royal, and they decided to settle here in the area, and they can't believe the politics here in Front Royal and in Warren County, particularly with the ZDA scandal. And it was, believe me, Mike, it was the biggest single reason I got into this campaign. After Bill talked to me about it, I said, absolutely. I just can't believe the size of the EDA scandal, and the fact you have people like our opponent, who's been in local politics here for 12 years, 8 years on the town council, 4 years on the county council or board of supervisors, and he's claiming that, you know, he's for change. Well, you had 12 years to get things done, or you had 12 years to stop things from happening, and he didn't do it. So it really is time for change in my view.
You agree with that, Bill?
Absolutely. I've known our opponent for probably 15 years. Served with him as a member of the Warren County Republican Committee, and I'm going to avoid being critical, but I guess I am going to be critical because I have never seen him do anything, and we need people who will do something. And our candidate, Walt Mabe, was a person who solved problems all of his life. That was his job. He did not go to college, but he went to the School of Hard Knocks. He's a tough guy. He's very, very smart and very quick on the uptake, and he's the kind of guy we really need now to solve our problems and get our county back on a positive footing.
Yeah.
He is very, very dedicated to Front Royal and Warren County. He's appalled at the fact that we're so divisive. You can't engage in a conversation with many people if you're on one side of the political spectrum or the other. And I give Walt highest possible marks for his basic motivation for getting into this campaign.
Could I piggyback on that? I think the biggest thing, most important thing I've learned is how divided and fragmented the county is. I would have never talked to certain people because I was on the Republican committee. And now I find that they wouldn't talk to me because I was on the Republican committee or whatever there.
Sure.
We have to talk to each other. Politics has to be put aside, and we have to build our county. We have to have housing. We have to have jobs. We have to fix our infrastructure. And we cannot do that with one party or one segment. We have to talk to each other. And that has been the biggest lesson for me in this whole campaign.
A lot of good ideas on either side.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, I always say ideas are a dime a dozen. We just need some action. That's where it's going to take. I mean, even if we take an action and it's wrong, you'll know right away and you can stop and try another idea.
Right.
But some people are afraid to step out and, they want to have it approved by 73 committees before they do anything or say anything.
Mike, you learn in about 15 minutes in the military. If you want to get a solution to a problem, go talk to the people that have to get the job done.
Right.
I can remember as a young lieutenant, the colonel came down or the captain came down and says, we got to do something. I'd go talk to those sergeants and I'd say, here's what the doggone colonel wants us to do.
How
What's
we
the
going to
best
do
way
it?
to do
How
it?
we going to do it?
And they would say in so many words, sir, and here's a 35-year-old guy talking to a 23-year-old lieutenant, if I were you, I would do 1, 2, and 3. And you ask a couple of questions
Sure,
back
sure.
and forth. And guess what? I get the privilege of standing up in front of the platoon and saying, guess what, gentlemen? We've been told to do this, and here's how we're going to do it. It wasn't me talking. It was
Right.
a doggone sergeant talking. And he's back there saying,
That's right. And then he supported you.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's what's missing in this community. We
Yeah.
don't have any leaders.
Yeah.
We don't have any people that will come down and say, what's the solution to the problem?
I think that's definitely the problem when you're especially, again, I've been going to meetings for years, and I know, Bill, you have, and no one shows up. Sometimes there's no one in the audience. And you wonder, like, well, just go there. We'll just accept whatever they say.
Sure.
And now that's changing. You're seeing people showing up to meetings and speaking their mind, and letting people know that they're mad. They don't want to take it. They want something done. And in fact, they don't want the wheels to turn slow. They want it done now.
Exactly.
And I noticed that because that kind of bringing up. I call the broom committee, the campaign, that they want everybody gone. We want some fresh new ideas in here across the entire platform. It's
Not a bad idea.
So I think that's what they're sweeping it. It don't matter whether you did good or not, how much you did. That's okay. Thank you very much for your service, but we want to try somebody new.
Yeah.
I think that's the sentiment of the whole county in every position.
I might add that as a Marine, Walt Mabe is not afraid to take on big problems. He would not sit back and watch something happen and wait for somebody else to do it. He will do it, I promise you.
Well, that sounds good. Well, anything else you want to talk about? We're going to wrap this thing up. The election is just in a few days, November 5th. That's when we want people out there voting. You're going to be out there saluting a few more days?
You bet we will.
And I want to add one more thing. I've gotten to know John Lundberg, father of the Father Lundberg over in my parish of Sacred Heart. And the first few days, and I have to tell this on John, actually the first few weeks, every time I saw John, he reminded me of the 1960 Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
When the I finally embarrassed him, and he's kind of got it under control now.
Yeah.
See, what he's not telling you is that the 1960 Washington Huskies were national football champions. I wasn't big enough or fast enough to play on that team, but I wanted in the worst way to be a high school football coach. So I went down, volunteered to be a student manager. After I read where Herbert, who was the president of the United States? Herbert Hoover?
Hoover.
No, the other.
Oh, he was my first president.
Yeah, but anyway, he was a student manager for the Stanford Indians before they became the Cardinals, politically correct, and he became president. So I figured I can become certainly a high school football coach by being a student manager. It was just a great life-changing experience.
Well, it surprises you, the people through our history, how they become president.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been from all walks of life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really, look at the president we have now. Who would have ever thought that he was going to be the president of the United States? He stepped up, there he is.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
that shows you can do it. You can do it if you set your mind to it. Well, I know you've really enjoyed the campaign. It's coming to an end. We hope to see them out along the road. If you see Walt or John or Bill standing along the road saluting, be sure you give them a thumbs up and salute back, and be sure you vote on November the 5th. Your vote counts. All right? Thanks again,
Thank you.
gentlemen.
You
Appreciate
betcha.
it.
Thank you, Mike.